And all right. Well, they didn't give us the countdown this time. So this is another episode of Drinks and Dogs. This episode is a bit different than the other ones. Typically, how we do in fashion, always mixing things up. This episode, we're gonna have two of the people that I've known Ilbra for quite some time now, and Rob Pellady, who we've had on the show before. Ilbra, I mean, it's got to be 16 plus years I've known of you or known you, and I'll start with you first because Rob's not on here, but the name of your rescue, it's Pit Crew Rescue, right? Pit Crew Sacramento. And then, although we've had this discussion before, but kind of let everybody know how'd you get started in like rescue. Oh shoot, okay. I mean, I've known. I mean, shoot, I think since I've known you, it's always been no. You were thinking you were doing the plaster roll thing, but Pit Crew, I thought that was something that obviously like you had started or you had brought it up to what it is today. I mean, obviously.
And I was like, well, shoot, give me 6 months, teach me the ways of like the back office work, the business side of things, the nonprofit side of things, and I'll take over.
Oh, one second, Ilbra.
Sure.
We have some issues here. Apparently, no one can hear. Let me refresh this really quick. All right. I hear some moving around. Do I got everybody?
They can't hear you or me?
They can't hear. I guess now we can hear. Can we hear your? I know I can't see you, but I can hear you.
You can't see me?
Nope. Let me go ahead and let's try that again.
Okay.
Bear with us, everybody. Gotta love the internet. All right. So, quick check for everyone watching right now because this is live, recorded live. Let me know if you guys can see Ilbra. I know Rob is having some issues getting on right now, but I can hear Ilbra.
Can you hear me?
Yep. There's Rob.
All right, I made it.
Ooh. Woo. Yeah.
Oh, you just can't hear Mike through my things.
Rob, can you see Ilbra? Oh, Rob can't hear me.
All right. Now, you can see me?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you see Ilbra?
But I cannot hear.
Can you hear or can you see or hear me?
I can hear you.
I can't hear you guys hardly at all. It's not coming through my Bluetooth anymore.
But you can see me?
Let me try something here.
I'm going to refresh this event again, G.
Should I be refreshing anything? I don't want to touch anything and screw it up.
Huh? Yeah, refresh your event, Ilbra.
How do I do that?
tap the little screen and there's 3 dots there. And then you'll see the mute.
Oh, that's not it.
Huh? She just got out. She'll come back in, I think.
Yeah, you're coming in way muted for me. Let's see if I can turn anything else up. Go ahead and speak again, Mike.
Oh, there she is. Do we got everybody now?
Yep.
You can see me now?
Yep, hear you and see you. Rob, you there? Rob, can you hear us?
I can barely hear you guys.
All right, so we got mostly everybody on here.
I can talk real loud. Just let me know.
All right.
There you go. Rob can hear you. So perfect. No one needs to
I
hear
heard
me
her
anyways,
just
on
fine.
monotone. All right. So now that I have everyone on here, and it only took us, 11 minutes.
45 minutes.
Hey, we're dog trainers, or we're dog people. We're not technicians or engineers.
Try some different headphones.
All right. So, Rob, I don't know if you heard earlier when you're getting in, but I did the intro to the show. I was asking Ilbra, how she got started. She was talking about how she went through it. So, Ilbra, I know you got muted there for a little bit. So, can you kind of give me a recap of the beginning of your rescue journey?
Yeah, so I started out volunteering in shelters and just walking dogs 2 days a week for like a year plus. And then I started fostering for different organizations, and I took some time off. Then when I came back, I started fostering for Pit Crew, and the founder of Pit Crew actually got overwhelmed and left the entire rescue scene. And I took over Pit Crew and made it what it is today. So when she started, she had 9 dogs total and 2 foster families. Now we have close to 50 dogs in our program, and we've adopted out over 1,500.
Awesome. And then that's been over the span of how many years now?
Since 2013 is when I took over.
Nice. I know, we've gone back quite some time, especially with the pitties and everything too.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Rob.
We go back before dogs.
This is true. So, Rob, I know we've talked before about Next Gen, and I've participated in the 11th hour Canine the Hot Wings event that we've talked about here and there. But give me a little background on the 11th hour stuff. Like, give me kind of how it started. The whole skill in it.
Well, it kind of started way before the inception. Just as a training company, getting called by different shelters because of our experience with working dogs and higher end behavior modification cases. And we would take the dogs in. We go down to assess a dog and take the dog in, go through a training program, and then help them to rehome them. And that just kind of took off from there. Was just something I was doing as a favor at the time. But it just kept building and building until the point where we just sat down and kind of brainstormed, coming up with an idea for the rescue, and coming up with that 11th hour idea just from like a governor's reprieve from the death penalty. So that's kind of how it all took over. And our premise is we're typically our shelters only. We don't typically take owner surrenders. They have to be assigned to death row, ones that are going to actually be euthanized. And then we go in and assess them. And if they are capable of being rehabilitated enough to go back into a pet home or to a home that would fit the dog, then we pull them and train them and then get them rehomed.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Obviously, like in rescue, there's a broad spectrum of different styles of rescues, and I think it's similar as in like dog training. You have rescues that do a lot of they'll continuously try to save rescue dogs. They just continuously pull no matter what. And then you have rescues that are a little more structured. Then you have rescues that are similar to what I did with the Free Dogs Foundation and Rob, we were doing with 11th hours, basically take fewer, but we try to train and get them out. Adopted, it's mostly youthless cases that require a lot of behavioral mod. So being and I mean, we're not really super active in rescue other than trying to work with, like, Ilbra, ARF, all animals and friends rescue. We do stuff with them, and we're getting more and more back into it as much as we possibly can. What is your guys' view on the state of rescue currently right now?
Oh, dude, let me talk first. Like, I want to comment on one thing that Rob said was, his requirements to pull dogs were youth listed in the shelter, no owner surrender. Like, I respect that so much, because I look around and I see rescues going in and pulling fully adoptable dogs off the adoption floor, dogs that are not at risk for euthanasia, taking in puppies off shelter adoption floors. Like, they don't at all need a rescue. Those are the sort of organizations that want quick turnaround, big numbers. They charge a premium for an adoption fee. They don't even provide all of the vet care. Like, it has gotten to a point where I see more bogus rescues than I see legitimate rescues that are in it for, we take in a dog in our organization and we're committed to that dog for the rest of their life. If the owner suddenly becomes ill 10 years from now and can't care for the dog, that dog's coming back to us. And we operate knowing that we could have to take back every dog at some point. But if you're pumping out 100, 200 dogs a month and you have no idea where they're going and where they're ending up, I just, to be honest, I can't fuck with that. I don't fuck with rescues who operate like that. It's not a numbers game.
Yeah. And I'll add to that, and I think we use the term rescue way too loosely. It's being used way too often. Everybody has a fucking rescue dog. I don't know if you know who Jim Gaffigan is. He's a comic. He does a great couple minutes on dog rescue. Just look it up on YouTube, Jim Gaffigan dog rescue. And he goes, "Hey, I rescued a dog today," and everybody in the crowd cheers for him. "Oh, great, that's awesome." He goes, "Well, I didn't pull it out of a burning building. I went into a shelter. I gave them money. They gave me a dog. And right after that, I went and rescued a pizza."
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes, yeah, it was perfect, because it really does undermine everybody calling themselves rescued. I think it does a couple of different things. One, it elicits a false emotional response. And two, when that dog goes into someone's home, they automatically have this over-emotional state to the dog where they, oh, it's a rescue. It must have been abused. It must have been this and that. And they end up over-bonding with the dog, becoming, to the point where the dog can't think without them because they go, oh, he was a rescue. We have to love him to death. Yeah. So it's doing a lot of harm when we get dogs into our training programs, our behavior modification program. These people come in and go, the dog, they're like, it must have been abused. Well, no, the dog was born genetically nervous. Yeah. This isn't, and you're nurturing his nature. So changing the words to a rehome, to an adoption, making sure people understand the difference. There's a huge difference. You didn't rescue the dog; you rehomed the dog. Yeah. You adopted
the dog.
Yeah. So that's my pet peeve of the rescue industry. And I'm totally co-signing on everything you said. Yeah, that is the absolute truth. That's why I won't pull a dog that could be saved. And we tell shelters, they'll call us up, and it might be a difficult dog. And we go in and go, that's not an 11th hour dog. But let me give you a training mitigation plan to help you and your volunteers to work with this dog and tell you what kind of home it's going to need. So I'll do stuff like that. We'll go in and do clinics. Also, part of the stuff that we do for 11th hours, we go in to train volunteers and employees at shelters on awesome. Training and reading dogs, all those things to help the dogs that are struggling in those environments get out of there alive. Because most dogs do not need rescue. They need to be adopted.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this much. I'm kind of the black sheep in rescue. And if those of you that follow Primal don't really know me, there's a lot of people that necessarily don't like me or won't work with me because I don't fluff anything. And I don't really care what people think about me. I don't care about being PC. I don't care about people's feelings and emotions. For us, it's always the dog. And the numbers that matter to us are 1,500 dogs placed, 1 ever returned. Those are the numbers I care about. That is like unheard of. Most rescues get 40, 50% of their dogs returned because they're so quick to turn them around. So I don't care if I deny, like if you were to go, someone sent me a screenshot of one of our Yelps today. We have a horrible fucking Yelp because we're not a profitable business. I don't care about keeping good Yelps. You know, our client is our dogs. So if you go and read them, which I obviously don't want you to, but if you were to go and read them, it's people complaining that they reached out to us to surrender a dog and they didn't like our response, or they got denied an adoption.
Yeah.
Or
And they're mad.
they're one of 800 people who applied for the same dog. And there was just no time to return 800 calls because you're 2 or 3 people in a whole rescue.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're going to get me started.
Right?
You do
I know.
not
I
want to
was
get
like,
me started.
are you sure you want me to come on this thing and talk about this stuff? Because you know I'm going to say everything.
Yeah.
So so these are all parts of the stuff we'll segue into later. But Rob and Ilbra, you guys both kind of stated a couple of things that revolved around training and numbers. And once you, like, you know, with us, like we volunteer at the local shelter. We train like the staff how to start, you know, a marker system, rewarding positive behavior, making sure the dogs aren't going freaking, you know, crazy in the kennels, or, you know, separating certain ones, you know, making sure we put the ones that are more of a, I guess, youthless case, either in proper fosters or into different training programs around us, and just teaching the people how to, in this new giant shelter down here that they just built. I think Sam Linquist, she took part in that too. So
it's all her fault. I'm in this mess.
Yeah. So let's get into like the rescue mentality. Rob, you said this too. Like once you say that, it makes people feel a certain way. You know, for me, like
I can't hear you all that much, Mike. Can you speak up?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I was talking about was, you know, the rescue mentality. When you say, "Oh, my dog is a rescue," when I do evaluations over the phone, when I'm talking to clients in person, they're like, "Well, it was a rescue," and then, you know, it's just, I just felt like, you know, I got to make up for time, you know, all this other stuff, and replace all this, you know, all this stuff that they feel, dehumanize all this emotion, and then, you know, a month later, once the dog comes out of whatever funk it was, you know, either the kennel shock or just kind of readjusting its life to it, starts acting like a dickhead, then they're just like, well, what do I do? I was like, well, a dog who had no boundaries and rules, you gave him everything because you thought that that's what you needed. You didn't treat it like a dog. And now it's treating you like a dog because that's how you've been acting with them. And they're like, well, I got to make up for this. And I have to, you know, as politely as I possibly can, be like, you don't got to make up for anything. You got to make sure this dog stays alive and stays at home with you. And a lot of that
dog is starving for leadership.
Yeah. So, you know, that brings me to the point of, you know, this is what I've noticed over the years is just the huge influx in, you know, positive reinforcement only in rescues, and even with counties stating that the dogs can only go to training with positive reinforcement as part of their thing. And for me, we're balanced trainers. I mean, Rob, you guys do similar stuff with that too. Is, you know, positive reinforcement is a part of training, but it's not all of it. And I feel like it's actually more of a detriment to, you know, the rescue community and shelter community in general.
Good girl.
Because that's what's going to happen. Like,
enough.
The dog's going to get treats for everything,
enough.
and then all of a sudden turn around and, you know it's like, oh, hey, redirecting, biting something or whatever is going on, or biting somebody because it's not getting the proper.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any shelters require positive reinforcement trainers only. That's new.
I have seen not required, but, you know, they say stupid words like, well, this breed, positive reinforcement only will be the best choice of training for them. I've seen it. I've seen it in writing, the county shelters.
Yeah,
or
Santa Clara.
Yeah, a lot of them, because they're all following the same kind of model, basically. There's only a few shelters that don't follow the same exact models, because the same people who are setting up the training programs for these counties are preaching that, and they're coming in as their behaviorists. They're coming in as their lead trainers. And, you know, actually, we have a couple of shelters that we've worked with. I won't name anybody, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but where the dog's at the back of the kennel, the dog's at the back of the kennel, scared, And they're like, well, he'll come out when he wants. We'll just get thrown food. If he doesn't come out, you can't put him on a leash and bring him out. That's their policy for their employees and volunteers. And I've walked in, thrown a dog on a slip lead, drag it out, and all of a sudden it's outdoors and it's your best friend. I mean, death rattle sounding growls where you're like, I'm going to kill you if you touch me, human. You just slap that slip leash on them. Let's go, jackass. And they come out and they're like, oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, dogs aren't going to change their behaviors day by day if something different doesn't change day by day. So if every day you walk out, the dog growls and you walk away, the next day the dog's going to do the same thing. So they're sentencing these dogs to death because they don't feel like they should have to force a dog to do something. So they'd rather euthanize a dog than to go against their own emotional garbage, which is, well, we can't force a dog to do something he wants. Well, no, the dog doesn't know what to do. It's up to us as a human to lead them to what they're supposed to do and to take them out of that situation. And by force if necessary, not hurting the dog. We're not talking about hurting him, but just, hey, little leash pressure. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah. And that actually is really similar to the dog Lucy we have in our program. So, and again, not trying to like put anybody down, but she was part of the bully bunch from the Sacramento SPCA, and they do great work. And she was part of a confiscate, so a backyard breeder who had all these adorable little tricolored bullies, cute, missing limbs, like cherry eyes up the wazoo, breeding left and right. Anyway, they prosecuted the guy for cruelty. They were part of their, evidence for like several months until all that was said and done. Lucy was actually pregnant. She had her puppies all got adopted. They made this huge like news media spectacle over the bully bunch. And then when it came down time for Lucy to be like assessed and adopted out, she was considered too human reactive. So for 6 months, they worked with a UC Davis board certified animal behavior. Yeah, I know. Basically pumped her full of trazodone. I got the email from the foster, like I could feel the desperation in the foster's voice. And I'm like, you know what? Can you come meet me tomorrow? And she's like, what do you mean meet me tomorrow? I'm like, come to this part, leave the dog in the car, get out of the car and get out of view. Like go behind a fucking tree. I'm going to come take her out of the car. And she's like, she's going to kill you. I'm like, just, would you? They made me sign a waiver, all kinds of shit. Lucy jumped out and went walking with me. I was petting her within the hour. It was fucking ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It's almost like they set these dogs up for failure. But because it was such a high profile case, they couldn't put her down. So they were just throwing money at anybody with any kind of like, any kind of glamour to their name or any kind of credibility or UC Davis or whatever, throwing money at it. And she wasn't improving. She was getting worse. She just got pumped full of meds. She's with me now, integrated with 7 other dogs. 3 of us handle her. She's a great dog.
And so kind of going into what you guys are saying too, and then also talking about just training and the humanization, that's a big thing when it comes to rescues, just the humanization of whatever emotional things. And I think a lot of that's typically it's that clickbait word that gets people interested in it, like I want to save this dog. There's some emotional attachment. And then like what you guys were both saying about this dog craving leadership. These dogs need as far as direction, no dogs are not gonna necessarily feel it basically fix themselves. They need that direction. And a lot of like we explained to a lot of our clients, and like they do understand, like people need to understand, like we did domesticate this animal. We did create them to be biddable. We did they are meant to be led by us. And all of a sudden, I don't know what year it was, but we were just like, screw it, they're gonna live this utopian life where they're gonna get food for free all the time. They don't gotta listen. They can do whatever the hell they want. They don't need to. They live this this life. And I feel in theory, not even in theory, just like in a perfect world, just like in our world, obviously no bad things would happen, but then that would mean there'd be no dogs in shelter. So you can't necessarily, I think the biggest thing, the stuff that I preach to all of our rescue or shelter and regular clients is like, a dog is a dog no matter what they've been through, no matter what's happened. As soon as you have that leash, you're in control of what the behavior is. And I think a lot of people use just like the words that we're using for, we're not going to force the dog, we're going to guide the dog out there. Once they hear these terms of setting guidelines, being being the leader of the dog, a lot of people's minds shift into that emotional, like, backup moment. Like, well, wait, what? Like, I don't want to be, dominant and all this other stuff. And it kind of creates that almost like that emotional boundary that stops people from actually wanting to train, and actually provide a dog the better life. Because once you have that balanced approach, especially for dogs who are in shelters, like dogs who actually are properly in shelters for behavioral issues, whether it's bites, dog fights, mishandle, whatever it is that actually have reactivity, those are the dogs that actually need it the most, because those are the dogs that have had they've had no clear guidance, or they've been put in shitty situations. Whereas, a lot of, like you said, Ilbra, in the beginning, people who are taking these, cute puppies off the floor and being like, oh, adoptable, and then, charging more money and doing all this other stuff to kind of bankroll a little bit. But I mean, kind of getting to the point with it is that, just because a dog does come from a shelter, has been rehomed multiple times, that just means it's not another, in my opinion, that just means another chance for someone to do right by the dog and not live in this, this world where, because we're experiencing a similar thing too, is that, not to kind of name drop anybody or anything like that, but you look at the questionnaire when you go to adopt a dog on the, when you go from the Santa Clara County or anything like that, or some of the counties I've known, it's, are you going to be using prong collars? Will this dog be participating in this? What type of training? Like, you already know just by reading that, you're like, oh, as soon as I check X, Y, and Z box, they're going to be like, nah, I'm going to go to the one that says they're going to feed them hot dogs and do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
they're going to take them to the dog beach.
Santa Clara County is actually not allowed to tell someone it's not the right dog for them.
Really?
Yep. That's why we ended up with so many issues down there too, because somebody could come in and clearly not be the right choice for this dog. They know the dog's had a history with being nipping at children and stuff. But people come in and they go, we don't want to adopt it. They can't say it can't go to people with children.
Wow.
They can't say, well, this dog's dog aggressive. It cannot go to houses with other dogs.
You know what's even worse than that is I see rescue groups. I use that term loosely. Pull bite case dogs or behavior case dogs that are rescue only and ship them to an adopter out of state in another city. No decompression time, no assessment of their own. Yeah. I mean, it happens every day. It's fucking horrendous. Like, it is so infuriating to watch, because it's almost like it's not a matter of if the dog is going to do something, it's a matter of when, because they're not getting anything that they need. So the rescues aren't doing what they should be doing to set up the dogs they're pulling for success. That dog is just going to end up worse off once they get to the next situation, because they didn't get what they needed. So I think shelters need to be more strict with adopters and the groups that they work with.
Absolutely. And then a couple of shelters I work with do a great job of that too. They won't let the dog go to rescue. They'll deny a rescue. They go, no, that's not a rescue dog. It's an adoptable dog. You cannot pull this dog.
Yeah, we get tagged all day long, and my response is that dog is on the adoption floor. That dog is still on a stray hold, for crying out loud. They haven't even been assessed. We don't take dogs off the adoption floor. That's not rescue to me. That dog doesn't need me.
And while we're on that point of being tagged for every single dog, because I get it all day long too, let me put it out there. If you want to tag me for a dog that you want me to pull, please pledge $100. Send it whether I pull it or not, for every dog that you tag me in. And that will fund my rescue for life.
No, it's true.
We could do exactly what you want us to do, pull almost every dog that's in trouble. If you just, it's great to recommend my name, but hey, we need the cheddar. Yeah,
the worst part of the bad part of that is all the dogs that get pledged, and then all the rescues that take the dog, collect the pledges, send them to whomever will take them, and keep the money, and don't put any of it towards medical or training.
Yep.
And it's usually training that they need.
Yep. No, I mean, even if you tag me, just give me $100.
Yeah.
For me to consider.
Just don't tag.
Yep.
I'll make you cry.
Or don't tag me, because that's not how it works around here.
I think that one of the worst, I would just kind of offside to that, is that for like the longest time, like because obviously I started in rescue, and then we had the Free Dogs Foundation. But we actually ran out of money with that, because what we were doing is we were taking like actual youthless cases, like dogs that were about to just, next day, boom, done. And I only had room for 5 kennels out of my facility. So that's the only way I can actually take them. So I had 5 dogs. And it was just like, all right, cool. And so like 2 of them I knew for sure. I was like, well, they're going to live with me forever because you're just too crazy and like you need a specific handling.
Now you're down to 3.
Yeah, so I'm like, you guys are stuck with me and all this other stuff. And then the whole, stuff happened in Campbell where we lost that facility because of the county. So like that all played out different. But then people can, like what Rob was saying, you get tagged, like, Primal Canine, can you save this dog? I was like, well, we can't save this dog, but I had like, 5 trainers and we're all booked solid, and I couldn't, I can potentially, dogs like, would you want to foster? No, I can't foster the dog, but can you guys do it? You guys are with dogs all the time. I'm like, yeah, but we're a business.
One more? No.
Yeah, like we're a business. You want me to pull this dog, and then it's just like, well, we can't do that, but you should be able to because you work with dogs, and then people kind of get offended by it.
Yes, they do.
That we won't, go and save the dog, and in my opinion, for a while I used to kind of I wouldn't get offended by it by them getting offended, but I'd be like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? I've got a kennel full of dogs personally. I got client dogs that I'm working with daily. And I was like, this dog's in LA, but you're mad at me because I won't drive to LA right now when the dog's going to get euthanized in 2 hours. It takes 4 hours to get there, and somehow miraculously.
Another good point. Yeah, another good point about that is why trainers don't fuck with rescues. I mean, they just don't. I know I have so many friends that are trainers and they've got burned. They've got dogs dumped on them. They've got, bills not paid. They've tried to help and they've gotten screwed over. So now you have all these awesome trainers who want to help, but are, gun shy to move forward with anybody because the rescues will oftentimes take advantage of the trainer and almost feel like they owe them something, like they're entitled because we're saving that dog. I'm entitled for you to do what you do for free at no cost to me. Like, that's not the way it is. Like, I urge my rescue friends all the time, not to like publicize when a trainer is helping you. And you've seen my posts with you, Mike. Like, I will even put a disclaimer at the bottom and say, don't hit him up for anything for free. Like, I will go
that.
because it ruins it for the rest of us. Then the trainers don't want to work with rescues. They screw it up for the rest of us. For those of us that really want to help a dog, for those of us that want to bring a dog to Primal to be assessed, to say, hey, Ilbra, don't ever adopt that dog out. She's too much of a liability. Keep her, provide for her. Or maybe there's like a small pool of potential adopters that could handle her. But then people are like too reluctant to even do that or give any sort of a discount. The second you do, everybody's going to expect it.
Yeah, no discounts.
No.
On the training business end, I charge my company through my nonprofit. I charge all my trainers work for me. They take dogs, but if another rescue comes in, that rescue has to pay the full price.
Right.
Here's a terrible war story off topic. We had a client who came in who had this German Shepherd out of control, all the anthropomorphisms. The dog was 7 or 8 months old when we first met it. Gave it an assessment, gave him a training plan, a board and train. They were supposed to do it. Then it didn't happen. 4 months later, there still hadn't happened. Well, we're thinking about this. Well, now the dog has to be about a year old. And I'm like, well, now we're fucked. And they call up, well, we want to rehome them. Okay, that's your option. Well, we were hoping your rescue would take them. That's not how my rescue operates. Well, I said, here's what, after talking a little bit, I said, here's how it would work if you wanted to surrender your dog. You guys needed about $3,500 worth of training.
Mm-hmm.
You donate $3,500 to my rescue so I can pay my trainers to train your dog like you should have, and I will take your dog and rehome it. And then she says to me, I thought you loved dogs.
Yeah.
Isn't this your job? Isn't this your job?
Yeah.
No, bitch, it's not my job.
Yeah, so
that's the best one. Isn't it your job to take whatever we give you?
Yeah.
So that's a segue to my next question. So rescue, as dog trainers, Rob and I, dog trainers, that's part of our profession. We're dog trainers, right? So with rescue and, having a rescue, working with shelters, being nonprofit, or, basically using, whatever company funds you have to, take care of your rescue, or like what we do with free dogs, doing that stuff, a lot of it can kind of seem like it's not a thankless job, but it can be it can be a big pain in the ass for, donating time, donating services, taking care of, the dogs you have, and especially some behavioral case dogs. There's times where we've been like, oh shit, we got to break out the Kevlar gloves because so-and-so is going to try to nail me, or whatever's going to happen. And those happen.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you guys is, you guys have both been doing this for some time. So why do you guys still do rescue? Why are you guys still involved in the rescue part of it?
Oh man, I'm in it because I really feel that what we're doing at 11th Hour Canine fills a niche that nobody is filling. I love the fact that when we deal with other organizations, other like veterinarian offices and everything else, they say you're like no other vet. We expected just a typical rescue to come in here where you started asking us to work with your dogs, and they said you guys are totally different. We love what you're doing, So it gives you encouragement knowing that you do make a difference, and the people who make a difference actually notice. The professionals and the people who are doing it well, yeah, they want to work with you. Yeah, and so the fact that we can go in, do what we want to do it in a professional manner, keep a good reputation, not solely either side of it, and seeing the results of some of those dogs who, come out of the worst situation that nobody else wanted to touch. Yeah. Because of a lack of education or a lack of ability, and not putting, there are some other good rescues down there. We shouldn't blast them all, but there are some ones that just aren't capable of doing what we're doing. And so the fact that we fill that void, and when we work with shelters, they appreciate what we're doing, and they call us personally to bring us in when they know it's an 11th hour dog. I think it tells me that I'm doing something right.
Yeah. For me, it's more like I just get dogs. Like I get dogs. I don't know. I'm kind of like a pit bull. I don't know. I just understand dogs more than I understand people. And there's nothing else that satisfies me like rescue does. Like I tried to do the training thing way back in the day. I can't deal with the humans. I cannot. I don't have like the empathy, the patience, I don't have that for people. I have it for animals. I don't want, marriage, husband, kids. I've had the career. I've bought the homes. I've graduated college. I've done all that, but nothing really filled my heart like rescue does. And I don't need much, For me, I don't need a lot to get by, and I don't need extravagant things, and money doesn't make me happy. But seeing these dogs come out of the shelter and totally come out of their shells and blossom and go into a forever home and get a text 9 years later, about how great that dog is doing, that's the only thing that really satisfies me. I don't know how else to explain it. Like my own family has damn near disowned me. They don't get it. They don't understand why I surround myself with dogs and shovel dog shit all day. They're like, what kind of life is that? They don't get it for no money. But it's just like what makes me happy,
I think that kind of sounds like, the combination of both things that seem to be like the more common answers of everything. Cause you really do have to like find, like there has to be some form of like the relation either with the dog, some form of like connection there, or just like satisfaction there. Because everyone, especially with social media and how everyone posts all like the cute puppy stuff and like all this like, sad music with the dog coming out and all happy now, they see like the glitz and glam of it. But in the reality of, at least, my years of doing this, and, I'm sure with you guys too, is that sometimes you get cases of dogs where it's just like, even if you're trying to record a small video, you're going like, oh, like, look, cute puppy, but please don't murder me. Like there's a lot of, look at this dog, he's super nice. But like, oh shit, you might try to get me. Like there's a lot of times I was working in Minnesota doing, for a long time, I was doing, monthly, or it was like every other month I was flying over there doing a rescue, working for this rescue. I forgot what the name of it is, but I was doing seminars with them. And I remember, specific cases where like, I'm like working with this dog with a muzzle on and the dog's consistently trying to like, you know, nail you, and you're trying to make it as like nice as possible. I'm like, I mean, dog.
Yeah. Smiling.
It's like multiple times. Like it's okay, everything's good. And
Rescue this dog today.
Yeah. And it's, you know, a lot of that is a lot of the stuff that people see. It's when you're working with these type of dogs, you know, these behavioral case dogs that actually ones that do need rescue. You know, there's a lot of, I would say there's even harder work that goes into those dogs than it comes from severe behavioral cases that owners bring in that's done by their own doing. Yeah. You know, I've seen worst case behavioral stuff from like people who've had dogs from 8 weeks old to 2.5 years old that I've seen in cases where the dog's in a shelter. But
and they do not like it when you tell them that you fucked them up, because I tell them that all day long when they send me emails and say, you know, the dog's 1.5 years old. I've had him since 4 weeks. First of all, you shouldn't have him since 4 weeks. Second of all, that tells me that you bought it from a backyard breeder, because no responsible breeder or legitimate breeder would have allowed the dog to be weaned and gone by then. Third of all, funny how you're not going back to your breeder for help now that you fucked that dog up. You're looking at rescues to step in and clean up your goddamn mess. That is why we get negative Yelp reviews. But I don't care. I'm going to tell them honestly all the time, because out of all of those emails that after they Google rescue and they send the same copy paste email to 100 fucking groups, one person makes them uncomfortable and holds up the fucking mirror and they have to actually think about it. I mean, I'm good with that. I'll take it all day long. Badmouth me on. I'm still going to tell you what time it is.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I think like when people are kind of stern and upfront, you know, for me at least, you know, talking to you guys and even like this discussion now, for me, it's more real and transparent than you do with someone who's going to lie to your face and be like, oh, the dog's perfectly fine. You go home a week later, the dog nails you, you know, or like, we'll be as completely honest with you. Like, you're not a good fit for this dog. You messed up X, Y, and Z. This is why isn't going to work. And I think that's what keeps dogs in homes though. Like that's what keeps dogs and people educated. Because eventually, you know, and especially with kind of the way that our world is working now is, you know, everyone's really soft and no one wants to be accountable for their own actions. So when someone tells
nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings or bruise their sensitive freaking egos, like I can't. And like you were saying, Mike, it's almost like they glorify rescue, like they glorify it. They make it look like fucking fuzzy and rainbows and teddy bears coming out their asses, and that is not what it's like. It is hard work day in and day out when you're doing it right. Like the behavior cases we have, you think we got donations rolling in for those dogs that are never going to leave us? No, we have to bust our butts to be able to continue to care for them, but we know we can't place them up for adoption. They're a liability. So this brings me to something I want to ask you guys. How do you feel about nonprofit organizations, certified, licensed, animal welfare groups who euthanize dogs that they can't adopt out?
I think there's in that regard, that's a tough one, because
I want to know your feelings on this. This is a hot topic for me.
I don't know what the certified animal wellness thing is. I've never heard of that.
No, just a certified animal, like a 501(c)(3) animal welfare organization, like a nonprofit rescue group classified as an animal welfare organization under the charitable trust. So they're a nonprofit collecting donations, animal welfare. But when they have a dog, they think they can't adopt out, they euthanize.
I think a lot of, the amount of dogs I've encountered, whether through shelter work, through working with rescues, doing, touching 40, 50 dogs a month, all the dogs that we've done, I've only really come across a couple of dogs that really truly needed euthanization. And those dogs were just a little bit cuckoo. Like one, you pull on the collar, they poop and pee themselves. And the other one, they just switch and kaboom. Just boom. But those were a lot of genetically messed up dogs. When it comes to pets, I've seen really bad inbred Malinois just through our importing, and those dogs, in 6 months, we're putting some of my staff members in hospitals. But that was due to really poor breeding. And when it comes to the average pet, a lot of the stuff that they're dealing with comes down from bad training. Doing the whole just basically bad training, not doing any foundation work. in my opinion, if you're a rescue and if you vet the dog seriously, you take the dog in, and you've committed to rescuing that dog, to exhausting all options. Like this is the problem I see when it comes to a lot of rescues that only utilize positive reinforcement and shame everyone who doesn't use prong collars, e-collars, do that stuff. If you just utilize one style of training only and you haven't exhausted all options, then you're doing yourself and the dog disservice. You're killing the dog because you're not comfortable with certain things.
Yeah.
There's going to be
Is that
cases
a
where
thing? Are they like shaming trainers that are balanced? Is that a thing? I don't see any. Is that happening?
All day long.
I don't know about you, Rob.
Really?
I get blasted with that shit almost like weekly.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I think,
and
there are cases where a dog, is too far. I don't want to say too far gone, but maybe not necessarily.
It happens.
Yeah, and
Right.
Yeah.
I think if a rescue is going to rescue the dog, they got to deal with it. They got to deal with it.
Exactly, and I'll
And just because
co-sign
you
what
can't
Mike's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I deal with the worst of the worst cases, we get that a little bit more than the average person would. We're going in there trying to give these dogs their last chance.
Mhm.
And some of them, once we get them out and we go, you are a danger to anyone around you. Yeah,
Right.
we have to. My policy is if I ever make that decision, I'm there with the dog the whole time. So we never take it lightly. But yeah, there's just some that it's more comfortable for them because they're in such a bad mental state that they're just in constant fear or anxiety, that I just feel it's the humane way to go for their well-being. But I
think too, Robin, this is something I want the people listening, whether they're watching it now or watching it later, is that there's different, like, just even talking between, like, well, Ilbra, you're crazy, so you take on a lot of behavioral cases as well, being solo and everything like that. But Rob, your rescue, like you said in the beginning of this, if you guys haven't caught on to this, Rob will go in and take the dogs on youthless cases. These are dogs that are already sentenced to death and coming out. And you also have Next Gen, which is the training company. So instead of like what Ilbra's kind of describing is someone who's rescuing, and all of a sudden time is ticking and this dog becomes, something that's taking money, becoming
space.
Non-profitable, taking space and is draining the bank account. All of a sudden, and I've only heard of this a few times, in the recent years, is now they're like, all right, cool, we got to youth the dog because it's now costing money than actually bringing something in or taking space or taking up time. Whereas Rob, whereas you is like, as a trainer who deals with dogs who bite, teaches dogs to bite and teaches dogs not to bite on both things, you can read a dog and be like, yeah, you'll nail a kid, you'll probably be a danger to somebody else, or like you're a liability. And at that point, what behavioral training can actually help, and what behavioral is not going to do anything, and then what training is going to put someone else more at risk than create more of an issue, because once that dog gets another bite, a live bite, that's still something that's going to be a potential for them, and they'll continuously push those things. So those are two different things.
The hard part, even in those, is 2 of my dogs are dogs that were aggressive, human and dog aggressive. They were clients' dogs. I took them on as clients, worked with them as much as I could, but got to a point where you go, I can handle these dogs. I can live with these dogs, but an average person can't. So in those cases, I keep that dog. They end up living with me forever. Totally fine. But we're talking professional level handling, crate rotation, everything else. My 2 females can never meet each other. Ever. It would be death. But the average home isn't capable of that, and the average rescue certainly isn't capable of handling something like that. And knowing that his dogs could never be placed. If these dogs were in any other rescue, they probably would be euthanized, because nobody has that kind of skill. To be able to read micro cues. My female Champenois, her cues are so micro that other trainers are going, she doesn't give any signs, but for some reason I could catch them. They were there. In a split second fast. In those cases, the problem is how many of us professional trainers are out there to take those dogs.
The way I see it is, if I can handle them safely and they're not a danger to me, and it's just about me managing them, then I owe it to them. That's why I've gone into major debt, got this property, with 2 houses on it. I have 2 it's set up ideal for me to create. I've got several dogs that if they even so much as see each other, game on. Like they're gonna try to get to
and you just can't put that out in the public.
Yeah.
So that's
and they're never gonna leave me.
So like that's the stuff that because again, talk about the glitz and glam of what people see on rescue, like, oh, I saved the puppy and they're kissing me in the face. Whereas like in our we're buying houses, we're getting property to facilitate for these animals. And, like Rob said, and like even like you're saying, Ilbra, is that sometimes you just have dogs who are management cases, and that's completely okay. You don't have to have the Disney movie every single time, you adopt a dog or doing like that. Just the fact that the dog is living there and being there and, living there and, alive and living a good life.
And getting what they need.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, if they don't want to be with those dogs, they don't want to be with those dogs. They're happy when they don't have to be with those dogs. Like I tell people all the time, listen to your fucking dog. Stop trying to like force it to do or be something else,
Train the dog in front of you.
Yep. It's like forced socialization. It's that people, I know, obviously Ilbra and Robert, you guys are going to agree with me on this, but even, us as people, sometimes we just don't like people by looking at them. Like, it's just
I'm that guy.
I don't like you. Like, walking down the mall, one of the worst things ever, and that's why I don't ever go to like stores, is walking down the mall and like I just see someone random. Perfectly fine.
Well, I don't go to
never
concerts.
Done anything to me. I look at you, I'm like, I just want to fucking hit you for some reason. What do you think the dog, like, do you expect the dog who uses their teeth to play and bark and stuff is going to be like, I don't like you, I'm going to walk away? No, they're not going to do what we do. They're going to go,
oh my gosh.
Well, fuck you. Like this is what's going to happen.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Each one of them is different. But speaking of glamorizing rescue.
Thank you.
Let's talk about volunteers who have ideas in their heads that volunteering for a rescue means playing with puppies all day and playing with dogs. And then when they come here and I go, thank you for volunteering, those crates have shit in it.
Oh no, did we lose Rob?
Oh no. Right when he was talking about shit in the crates. I can spin off that though. There's no puppy petting at my. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so they clean the shit, sanitize this, click up that the dog room needs to be cleaned out. You got to get all that done. And they're like, but what about dogs? And I go, well, this is about the dogs. But the dogs and the dog go clean the shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just come and go, just because they thought they were going to play with dogs all day. And I'm like, well, our dogs aren't dogs you play with all the time.
Nope.
They don't even get to volunteer for us most of the time. Like we have that orientation that they have to go through, training, 92 documents they have to sign. And honestly, it's like we put them through the ringer because we don't want to have a high turnover of volunteers. We want to have volunteers that come out and they're regular. And if they're not, then we don't have time for them. To be perfectly honest, it's not about puppies.
Well, if you get a chance, send me over your 92 documents that they have to sign. I'd love to read through them and see if I can apply them to my rescue.
I would love to. I've actually had several. Off the top of my head, I can name 4 rescues that are bigger than me that have adopted my foster manual, my crate training guide, my non-disclosures, our hold harmless agreements, our adoption contract, all of it. Like it is ironclad.
That would be huge for me. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get some closing stuff here, what would you guys like to see like happen in the future with rescue?
I would like to see more responsible rescue. That's my biggest fucking pet peeve these days. And I get a lot of flack for it. I get a lot of shit talked about me. I'm a hater. I'm negative. I'm this. But I see rescues glamorizing things, making it basically a profitable business for themselves, not actually saving any lives, and being completely negligent. When I say negligent, I mean taking dogs off, the red list who have a bite on freaking file recorded with, medical records, all of that, and sending the dog out of state, and the dog ends up attacking the child in that home. And then now all of a sudden it's because it was a Rottweiler. That's why. It was a pit bull. That's why. No, it was because the rescue did not do their due diligence and set that dog and that family up for failure. And they're not legally responsible because they had so-and-so sign something that said, we are not responsible for anything.
Well, we're even seeing shelters do that now.
I want to see them rescue responsibly.
I'd like to see them stop calling themselves rescues.
Yeah, right? They're puppy flippers. That's what I call them.
Yeah, like something. Call yourself something else. You know, you're not saving any dog. You're not saving them. Again, go to that Jim Gaffigan. I rescued a pizza too.
I'm gonna go watch that tonight. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's get to the point where you're being honest and make sure your people that you adopt to, you know, you actually do a better vetting process. Yeah. You have to go through a vetting process. Don't just put them in anybody's home, especially if you got behavior cases, and stop pulling bite cases if you are not a behaviorist or some kind of behavior modification specialist.
Thank you. There's one rescue in particular, I won't name names. I found out that they've euthanized over a dozen dogs that they couldn't adopt out because they were a liability, and they've only been in business for 3 years. I don't even know how that's fucking possible. Why are you pulling those cases then?
Why are they pulling those cases?
Stop.
Exactly.
Yeah, stop it. You're not equipped for it. You can't handle it. Just stop doing it. And I'll tell you why, because those dogs have pledges.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what we get all the time too. And yeah, it's a real pull. You know, you get somebody to tag you, know, and here's the problem. I've done dogs where we pulled that had pledges. And about 25% of the people who actually pledge actually follow through.
No, dude, I lose money on every dog I adopt.
If they're
every single dog. Our adoption fee, I was talking to some friends of mine in rescue that I actually really respect. And they told me their adoption fees. I was like, damn, am I like really low? Like, should I need to? So I brought it to my group and we talked about it. And they were all like, no, we're not changing our adoption fee. It's not about the money for us. I was like, all right, cool. Glad you're on the same page.
We do a sliding thing, you know, so we'll accommodate the dog. If there's a dog that's super high demand, then we want to make sure that the person coming in is not just trying to get a free dog or a cheap dog. So we'll actually charge a little more for a dog that may be a pure breed, you know, or a puppy that, you know, a 9-month-old lab puppy. We get, like I said, 800 applications for it. So in those cases, we make sure that those people are, you know, really committed to doing it and not trying to get around paying a breeder fee. Yeah, trying to cheat their way around something. So,
well, here's a question I have for you guys, because I know, like, the folks that adopt from us are always very happy with the process. They always end up coming back to us for another dog when the time is right. The people who usually get mad are the ones that don't want to deal with our process because it is so thorough. We go so far as, like, verifying they own their home. We go so far as requiring their current homeowner's insurance policy so we can verify that there are no breed restrictions. We go so far as a home inspection, resident pet. I mean, it could take tens of back office hours in order to even have them come meet our dog, right? Because we don't want the people who just want the pit because it looks cute or whatever, and they're not even allowed to and they try to pull the wool over our eyes, you know, but we always catch it. So how do you guys feel about, like, being, I guess, how do I phrase this? So the number one thing that I see in the shelters right now is dogs being surrendered because they weren't allowed to have that breed where they lived, or the neighbors were complaining or whatever. So for me, we go as far as we can without being too invasive, making sure you're allowed to have a bully breed where you live. How do you guys feel about that? Is that similar to having the type of dogs you deal with? Are they on the restricted list as well?
Of course. The dogs we deal with are 90% German Shepherds and Malinois and Pit Bulls. It's just going to, you know, that's what we pull. That's what's out there. That's what the behavior cases. We don't pull Chihuahuas.
Yeah. Those are the real.
So yeah, it is a question that we ask even in our application process. Sorry, my battery is dying, so I had to move around. It is something that we ask, you know, that we make sure that there's no breed restrictions. in their insurance policy. We have them look through, make sure, come back with us when you actually know that it is or not, because it is a huge problem.
Yep.
Right.
You get a
Especially-
dog,
I've
you
never
can't
seen
have it.
so many like working class dogs, young, healthy working class dogs in the shelters. I've never seen so many.
Oh my God! Last
Just
year
about to hit.
we almost changed the name of our rescue from 11th Hour Canine Rescue to 11th Hour Malinois Rescue.
Yep.
We pulled so many Malinois last year that it ended up. I don't know if you follow our stories, but we've got dogs that are all over the country now training as police dogs and search and rescue dogs because they were just too much dog for the people to handle, and they too much in the shelter too.
You train them out of the shelter for working dogs too, not just pets?
Yeah, we got two pit bulls we've placed as narcotic detection dogs. One's down in Fireball, California, and the other one's down in, I think it's in Missouri now. We sent it down to Texas, and they got trained down there. But, once we tested it out of the Oakland Animal Shelter, I did a hunt drive test on it, and I went, that dog going with me. And yeah, I mean, both of those dogs were terrible pets. They weren't aggressive or anything. They just didn't care about their human. They just they want their ball. They're searching for their ball. They're tearing the place down to get to their ball. And so, yeah, once we figure out if they can use their nose or not, then we go, oh yeah. So yeah, we're placing them left and right into more of a working environment just to get them out of that situation where people think they got to cuddle them. People think they got to love them and pet them and that they're going to kiss them and call them Fred. Yeah.
Right.
No, just
Fred. Why Fred?
because of cartoon.
Oh.
It's like Bugs Bunny cartoon.
I have a dog
love him
like
and call
that.
him Fred.
Her. She's the longest dog we've had in our rescue. It's going on almost 6 years now. And there's no fault of her own. She's just got such high drive, like nothing I've ever seen. Like, she's not, I mean, she's got a cuddly side too, but she's too much dog for most people to handle.
Yeah.
Those are the fun ones. Well, getting the cue to wrap us up, guys. So where can we find you guys on the social medias?
So we're at 11th Hour. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. I'm making fun of.
So we're at 11th Hour Canine Rescue on Instagram and on Facebook. You can find us there. And follow the training company as well because we cross-post between the two. That's at NextGen K9. And it's no T. NEXGEN, letter K, number 9.
NextGen. We're at Pit Crew Sacramento on Instagram and on Facebook, and our website's pitcrew.org.
Awesome, guys. Well, as always, we all have our offline conversations as well. You guys are great people. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your week to get on here. I'm happy to have you guys on. I knew I wasn't going to have to do much talking because Rob and Ilbra are on, so I was like,
I almost texted you first to be like, yo, if I start just rambling, like, tell me to shut up.
Well, I did that shit on purpose. I was like, I don't even have to be on here. I'll just turn the thing on and let them go.
Go.
Like dog and
Well,
drive.
if you notice, I was having to drink beer tonight because I have not seen any Cerberus whiskey yet.
Yeah, I still have your bottle here. I'm waiting for the hot sauce to be made for you. So
I was going to have hot sauce on the pizza if you had it here.
So I told my buddy who's making a hot sauce, and this is something that's completely different from the show. So if you're watching the show, this is the time we're usually going to cut it off. But I have him making a special batch for you, and I keep telling him, I was like, I'm pretty sure Rob doesn't taste anything because he pretty much smoked everyone during his hot wings challenge. Whereas towards the end, I was like dying. I was like the guy added more things to the hot wings challenge. So you gotta make something special for him. So
all right, I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
All right, guys. Nice talking to all of you.
Thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure you check out everyone that's been on this. And all right, guys, you guys have a great evening.
You too.
You too, Mike. Bye.
Bye.
Now we got to figure out how to turn it off.
Right.